All right, we are live. And I'm going to wait just a few minutes, seconds, to make sure that, there we go, making sure YouTube and StreamYard are talking to each other. And here we are, folks. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Some of you are over at Captive Desk, and I don't know. I reached a point with that guy where I couldn't stand it anymore. I don't know how Dave and company have a great sense of humor, which allows them to get through those videos together. It's a communal event. I can only take so much of a young preacher who is so blinded by his faith that he can't seem to get out of it. So it's kind of sad to me. So yeah, so there's that. But yeah, it was kind of, I was getting to the point where the answers being magic were kind of pretty universal. But welcome at one and all. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is William Lane Craig recently put out, like 8 days ago, I think 8 or 9 days ago, he put out a very short 1 minute, 20-second video about the argument for the existence of God he wished he had used more in his debates. And I'm going to play that video tonight, talk about it. But I also went back, and you have to go back 5 years on William Lane Craig's videos to find his actual argument encapsulated in a video form from a mathematical point of view, this particular argument. So, but he's, I kind of gave it away there, but that's the argument that he wished he had used more. And I want to look at his reasons for it and see if it would help him. So yeah, he was, this is a very, William Lane Craig is always an interesting topic for me because I've heard so many atheist commenters over the years say that he was the most challenging person that they'd ever read in regard to apologetics, because he's not like, he doesn't deny evolution, and he doesn't deny Big Bang cosmology, and he doesn't do any of that. So it was difficult for them to get around some of the stuff. But when you realize that he's gone to low bar Bill status, then that just makes the rest of the apologists even more shitty than they were before. So let's so there's that. So yeah. So but we'll there's also a goal in chat, just a polite, non-intrusive way of asking for money. If I get to the super chat goal, I will wear the hat chosen by the poll for the rest of the stream. So there's that as well. So there's that. And let's see who's here. Fred was actually fairly early, chatting with me earlier than that. Yes, we're doing low bar Bill tonight. Intriguing and horrifying at the same time. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Ron is here. Ann is here. Martin is here. Yes, he is, but that tells me what the rest of them are. Because I remember when I was initially doing this channel, he put out this argument that he wishes he had done more. And I remember thinking to myself, it's so obvious what's wrong with it. And yet other people found it challenging. And I'm like, I'm not so sure that it's very challenging. So, but yes. His nice teeth in the southern are necessary to win over his audience. He just wandered in off the street known as Captive Desk, probably. Hey, Kevin, thank you very, very much. That's one. Only 4 more to go. So, before I get started, though, I did want to remind all you members that you have a few. This is probably the last time I'll talk about new emojis, but we do have a few of them. So you do have a yes now and a no. And my favorite emoji of all time now, the grumpy fangs. So, but you also have nope, and you have yes, and the one I'll probably use the most today, over fang's sake. So there's that. So there you go. But I'm going to pull up. Let's add William to the stage. I'm going to grab my earphones so I can hear what he's saying. But yeah, so here we go. But William did this. The video I'm about to show is about 8 days old. It's him reminiscing about some of his debate time, and he's going to say that this is the argument that he had wished he had had done more. You really think that Grumpy Fangs needs more Visine? I don't know. I think he's red-eyed, and he's red-eyed for a reason. That's his natural color, by the way. So, I mean, I don't know what we can do about a natural colored red-eyed fangs, but there it is. So there's that. All right, I'm going to turn the volume on. Let's see. We'll set it about there so it doesn't blast my ears out. And so this is what William Lane Craig posted on his videos about 8 days ago about the argument he wished he had used more often. Hey, Earl, before I get going. I'll be dealing with some Earl artwork later, too, I think.
There is an argument for the existence of God that I have only lately formulated and developed, and that is the argument from the applicability of mathematics, what Eugene Wigner called the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. I've argued that this is best explained by the fact that there is a transcendent, intelligent designer of the universe who has constructed the physical universe on the mathematical model that he had in mind. And that is why mathematics is so unexpectedly effective in describing physical phenomena. I don't know, however.
Okay, so what he's saying, and this is we're going to be going over the video where his argument, William Lane Craig's argument for God based on math is, and it's 5 years old, but I still have the same problems with it, and he hasn't fixed them. And so his whole thing is he wishes that, and thanks everybody for the donations. Yes, Kevin, $2 does count. I go very low on this. I'm not asking for a lot of money, just pay for my time a little bit. It encourages the content creator in me and the streamer in me. So there you go. So, but he's basically saying that he wishes now, back when he looks at all his debates, that he believes that this is a better argument for the existence of God than he thought, and he should have used it more. Okay, that he should have done it more. And I remember 5 years ago when he released this other video that we are going to look at, I had some large problems with it as an argument for the existence of God. And he has still yet to change it. Okay, and that's kind of going to be my point tonight. I think you're going to hear it. But he hasn't changed the mathematical argument for the existence of God. He's just saying that he wished that he had used it more, because to him personally, he wishes that he had used this argument more, because then he feels that he would have been a little bit more effective in persuading people. Now, we're going to look at that argument tonight, and I'm going to play the rest of this video because he kind of goes into a few more things that he wants to say about it. But it's like, I find it very interesting that he thinks that this was a better argument than he originally thought, and he should have probably used it more. Now, I'm going to tell you, my assessment tonight is, okay, if he had used the mathematical argument more, would he have been more effective as an apologist? You don't have an argument with that? Okay. Oh, yes, Earl just did the next installment of the Adventures of Fangs. I would like to remind everybody that when it comes to Fangsology, I Killed Earl is also canon. as well as whatever I say under the Holy Buddy Hat's influence. So just reminder that, and if there's contradictory elements to the canon, we're going to do the same thing that every other religion does, and we're going to try to justify the contradictions. So there you go. Yes, he does switch from Midwest. I thank you for somebody else noticing that, Ron. It's baloney. Okay, well, good, Ray Ray. Can you stick around? Because I might need your expertise. Okay, I might. Math, I was always good at math, but never great at it. I was always a pragmatist with math. Like I was good in physics and chem in high school, and so math was kind of that pragmatic language that I had to use to illustrate stuff and learn stuff and do that sort of thing. But math was never the center of it. So there you go. So that's that. William Lane Craig's ignorance. He can't afford to change. Yeah, it's, I guess we'll see tonight, but I want to play the rest of this. This is a video he did just like literally a little bit more than a week ago. And he's lamenting the fact that I wish I had used the argument from math more. So there you have it. Hey there, Wolf. Good to see you.
That I would have used this argument more had I developed earlier, because the appeal of this argument, I think, is very selective. I imagine it only appeals to students who have had some training in mathematics or mathematical physics, and therefore understand this puzzle that gripped Wigner as to why mathematics is so unexpectedly effective in describing physical phenomena. People who haven't studied mathematics or high-level theoretical physics often have difficulty even seeing what the problem is. So in talking to a popular audience, I'm not sure that this would be the best argument to share.
Okay, so I guess even now he's kind of pulling back from this idea because, you know, us dumb people that don't know math and physics can't figure out why, you know, this is a big issue to him. But I have many, many people who are mathematicians that have looked at this argument and mostly said, yeah, it's garbage. We're going to get into that. But it's like his theory is he might have been more effective with smart people if he had used the mathematical argument more. So let's see if that's true. But his whole thing basically 8 days ago was he posted this video and it's about a minute and 20 seconds long. And he's like, I really wish I'd used the math argument more because it would have probably appealed to more people of intelligence. So yeah, well, we're going to get into that because that's been my argument, Ray. It's like, it's the same reason why a 10 millimeter wrench fits a 10 millimeter nut. You know? It's like maybe human beings designed it to work that way. But we're going to get into the actual argument. I'm going to get rid of Craig here for a minute. And as kind of a small interlude, I want to put up a piece of artwork by I Killed Earl, since she was mentioned earlier. And she sent this to me today. This is, many of you have seen this picture before, but this is now the finished product, according to her. Some of you are in here. So, but yeah, I used it for the thumbnail today too, a little bit. I used the old one, but there are many spaces for all of you. And I want to thank all of you that have followed this channel over the years. I want to take the opportunity to do that. But we're going to bump into William Lane Craig's video on the argument from mathematics. And I'm asking the simple question, if he had used this, would he have actually been more effective in his ministry of apologetics to reach intellectual people? It's Abyss Fangs, yes. We put a few new guys in. We put the excuse me and Left-Handed Jedi, and Cranky is in here, and a few others of you. The Whale is obviously other mentions, and so on. So there's that. But let's pull. But thanks, Earl, for this one. I really honestly say I when I looked at it and I thought, the bottom part of this would make a hell of a thumbnail, and sure enough, it works really, really well. So yeah, and that's kind of my point. We're going to see. I want to remind everybody tonight, and I'm going to pull it up. I want to remind everybody tonight what William Lane Craig's actual mathematical argument is. Now, this is 5 minutes long. Okay, so bear with me. All right. But he says if he used this argument more, he would have been more effective with people who were intellectuals. Okay. Like he's that kind of, he feels based on what he just said that it would have worked better if he had used this with more intellectual audiences. Okay. I want everybody to understand that that's what he's saying. Okay. Because I wanted to put the earlier video on. So people want to accuse me of making stuff up about what William Lane Craig is saying. Okay. But he's saying that if you use the math argument, he would have been more effective at reaching intellectuals, particularly people in math and physics. So I want everybody to remember that. Hey, Blossom, good to see you. Top card battle royal where I'm starting a new wrestling league. Top card is a battle royal where WLC, Turek, Ray Comfort, and all the other favorites fight to the death with only one survivor or no survivors. Okay, there we go. But here's what, now you won't hear William Lane Craig, but this comes from his videos on the arguments for the existence of God. And so he's the brains behind this. And this is the argument for the existence of God based on mathematics.
Why does mathematics work? Think about it. Mathematical entities like numbers, sets, and equations are non-physical and abstract. They can't cause anything. Yet, for some reason, the physical universe operates mathematically.
For some reason, it operates mathematically. Does anybody else see a problem? I couldn't get very far into this video, and it looks like Aristotle here is smoking a cigarette, I think, so, or whoever it is. But yeah, but I feel like there's already a cart before the horse before he even makes the argument. Like there's an automatic assumption of we see something physical do something, and then we say, oh, that's because it's operating according to mathematical principles. But our mathematical principles, they're abstract and don't do anything, but somehow they do something by making the universe operate the way it does. And I just have a real hard time almost immediately. When I first watched this video, like many years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I had this same gut level reaction. So it was like, now, wait a minute, you're making a big assumption right out the gate. You haven't proven that assumption, like that the world does things because mathematical principles guide it. Okay, there's an assumption there. So I liked where I stopped it because it does kind of look like he has a cigarette in his hand.
As Galileo put it,
oh, it's Galileo, that's right.
Is written in the language of mathematics. Scientists do not use mathematics merely as a convenient way of organizing the data. They believe that mathematical relationships reflect real aspects of the physical world. Science relies on the assumption that we live in an ordered universe that is subject to precise mathematical laws.
Is that the way it works? Is that actually how it works? Do mathematical laws, if you just say that they don't exist in reality, but they just exist as abstract concepts, and then all of a sudden, now they're laws of physics that make things act a certain way, you would pay good money to see that. Yeah, they had good dope. Yeah, it would make sense of it as a mathematical language being refined. Hey, Azzo, good to see you, man. So there it is. Because existence is, math is language we use to describe what it is not in itself, an objective function. Yes, and I think that's the problem I have. Oh, now we're going yo-yos. I was getting a little worried there, asho. Dave was giving you a big head, the word of an asho, and not according to quantum mechanics. It doesn't work that way. Okay. See, Ray, I'm with you, because when I first saw this video a long time ago, and it's kind of like, this is a throwback for me, because this video is like 5 years old, and he has not altered it. He has not changed it. Unlike some of his videos, the comment section on this one is still active, because most of the comments are affirming. I don't know what happened to the ones that were negative, because I know that when I looked at it a few years ago, there was a lot of comments on this video negative from mathematicians saying, no, that's not the way math works. And somehow all of those are gone now. So this is where WLC has kind of moved into my dishonest camp, because he's been informed that there are alternatives that exist, but he has not changed his viewpoint. I did a little research earlier today, and even Rationality Rules 5 years ago could not find at that point where William Lane Craig had changed his argument for the existence of God from mathematics significantly in any way. And so I want to go back to our original video that we started with. He's saying that if he had used this argument more, he would have reached more smart people. So there's that. Yeah, it's definitely older. I don't know if he has a new one. Okay, I just don't see it. I think he has a discussion with somebody about it that's more recent, but he hasn't changed. It's still, his language is still very much the same as this. So Billy big numbers into English, irregular numbers, that proves that math is 100% made up. Okay. Yeah, made up by humans to do a specific task. Math works because existence exists. Yes. Yeah, I would buy that. But this is his, he starts out with mathematical concepts are abstract, but they do stuff. And the only way that we're going to get to the actual argument, the soliloquy, the eight, premise one, premise two, and conclusion, therefore God exists, in a minute, but a little bit further in the video, but that's where we're headed. So,
thus, the laws of physics are all expressed as mathematical equations. For example, Pythagoras discovered that when a vibrating string is shortened by half, it plays the same note 1 octave higher.
But see, my problem with that part isn't like the idea of an octave. Isn't that a human-made concept? Like, he's totally avoiding the fact that when it came to music, yeah, if you have things, they have the same sound, it's just higher, okay? But that's just a descriptive of the universe. That's not proving anything, okay? That's just saying, yeah, I would agree with you, but I'm reacting actually, Decibel, to the fact that about 8 days ago, William Lane Craig put out a short video saying he wished he used this argument more because he felt he would convince more intellectual people. If you go to the beginning of the stream, you'll see that where I play that. But he is convinced that if he had used this argument more, he would have definitely got more converts on the brainiac side of things. So, but he's not sure it's good for regular folks because they're too silly or stupid to understand it. He didn't use those words, but it's just regular people just can't understand this argument very well, according to him. So, but thank you, Decibel. I appreciate it. That's 4, only one more. Specifics of the, yeah, Paul Davies. Yeah. William Lane Craig quote mines a few of these people, and the funny part is one of them I think is actually an atheist. So, yeah, math does nothing, existence does, and math is how we describe that, and record it. So, It's something we created. And I really get mad that something that brilliant people created gets used for something else. So, but here we go. But the decibel thing, I don't care. I can observe that, and it doesn't mean that God did it. And decibel is an idea that we created as well in music. So I don't know, in other sciences. So I don't know where he's getting at. But.
Isaac Newton's observations led to his discovery of the law of gravity, a mathematical relationship expressed as a simple equation that enabled us to enter the space age. Mathematics enabled astronomers to pinpoint the location of a previously undiscovered planet.
Well, mathematics and observation of a lot of the rest of the solar system allowed them to do that. Like the fact that we were able to put a bunch of stuff into mathematical form that allowed us to make mathematical predictions. Yeah, mathematics has a predictability to it, but it doesn't mean that it's magic. Okay, it doesn't mean that somehow God's involved. Okay, that's a pretty big leap. You've literally said mathematicians, physics, astrophysicists have used the tool of mathematics to make predictions. That doesn't prove God in any way, shape, or form. Okay, it does. It's just a way. So there we go. Oh, well, let's see. We made the hat reveal, which means first of all, I gotta switch earphones. That's a kind of a mandatory thing for me because I won't be able to get the hat on with those big things on. Kind of early tonight, so appreciate that. All right, and let's see who's the winner. The winner is Slash Top Hat, which I've only wore once before, so that's a nice winner. Good one. I don't know about this hat. It needs some work. I'm still trying to figure out how to pin some of the things down. My costume to my design skills are definitely going upward. So there's that. But there we go. There's the hat reveal for today. I just need long hair and a very old guitar, and I would fit in the 80s perfectly. So there's that. So there's that. But yeah. So there you go. Yeah, okay, converts for real. That makes me wonder, as a former preacher, did you actually seek out to convert people on a regular basis, or was more about reinforcing preaching to the choir, as it were? Evangelicals, that's where they get their name, Blossom. Evangelical fundamentalists are actively seeking to convert people to Jesus Christ. Okay, so let me give you an example from preaching. I would design my messages, because we were dealing with a preacher on captive deaths who's young and silly and needs to get over his faith and start thinking with his brain instead of believing. So I made a few comments on his preaching about 3 points in a poem and all that stuff. But my homiletics instructor, my preaching instructor, when I was in Bible college, this is a little bit behind the curtain for those of you that go to church. Just watch what your preacher does. Now, some don't give a damn. They're making things up. But if you have a coordinated service, okay, that's supposed to be coordinated the way it's supposed to be, then the message that I was preaching always ended with an altar call, always ended with an active attempt to get somebody, especially if there were visitors, I would definitely do this, to get a person to come to the faith. You're actively seeking in your message, in your preaching, this is what you want. Okay. And so William Lane Craig is an apologist. Okay. He's always trying to do this. He's always trying to persuade people to be converts. He's not supposed to be just about giving a defense of the faith. He's supposed to be giving good reasons to have faith. Okay. And so you got to understand that that's what they're doing. Okay. Everybody here in this church is dedicated to that. Like one of the easy forms of evangelism that I used to tell my people to practice, just bring them to church. Just ask them to come to church. It's very unoffensive to a lot of people to be invited to church. Yeah, sure, I'll come to church with you. And then they would hear the message of the gospel, and it's an active attempt to persuade people to move from not being a believer in Jesus to being a believer in Jesus. Okay, so when William Lane Craig does his arguments for the existence of God, he's trying to lay the groundwork for people to become converts. because the church is in a real bind in the Western world. It's losing adherents. And when I was in the church, we were already talking 10 years ago about the graying of the church, like how church members are getting older and older and older. What the church needs right now is an infusion of new blood to kickstart its youthfulness again. And that's why you see a lot of these young preachers taken to YouTube. You see a lot of young preachers doing messages. You see them more front and center because they're trying to win a demographic to Jesus, convert them so that the church doesn't slowly but surely wither on the vine, basically. Like, you know, I looked at my last church. I think I was one of the youngest people in the room, and I was 40 some years old. Okay. And everybody else was older than me for the most part, except for a few. If that church continues along that demographic, attrition is going to kill that church. Okay. It's just going to happen. So, but yeah, there's that. I need a cigarette too. I'm not a big fan of smoking. So, but if I had the long hair and a guitar, I think I'd fit in. Yeah, I loved Guns N' Roses, except for Axl. So, hey, Dade. Hey, it's Dade. Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Here, let's see. I'm going to try to remember where I'm at here because I got to show Dade something that I Killed Earl did as a piece of art. You're in this, Dade. Down in the bottom corner. So, but yeah, but you're down there. So I wanted to show you that because Earl put you in. Excuse me. Thanks, Dade. Appreciate you stopping by, man. Okay, let's get...
And James Clerk Maxwell used mathematics to predict the existence...
Okay, so the point I'm trying to get with apologists is, like, this whole point I'm trying to make tonight is apologists keep using the same crap. They just try to repackage it or reemphasize its importance. Okay, like in the case of William Lane Craig here, he's saying if I used the mathematical argument where I've gotten the younger, smarter atheists maybe to be convinced to be theists, and so he's thinking that there would be a younger dynamic. So what apologists are constantly doing is strategizing what is the most effective way to convert people. They are definitely do that. Yeah. Thank you, Earl. That was great stuff to put Dade in. So yeah, you're in that piece of art with fangs and the anglerfish, and coming soon, maybe in 2 years or so, to a bookstore near you will be the story of fangs and the big anglerfish. So you can read it. So, yes, they are leaving churches in droves because here's the backfire of letting the Christian nationalists be in charge right now. They're awful. And people don't want to be associated with awful. Okay, like we have literally had people, Anne-Marie, say that they should bring back slavery because the Bible allows it. We've had people say that people in the LGBT community should be deleted, capital punishment. We've seen all the awful things that the Bible says should be true on public display. In addition, we're seeing a backlash to that. So, I mean, I just saw the poll numbers, and the Republicans are not doing well. The only problem is the people doing worse are the Democrats. So we'll see what happens. As a political scientist, I kind of watch from the sidelines and try to be an analyst, but it's kind of hard for me when people are attacking me in particular. Yes, Mormon missions are very young. JW, same. It's why they make those kids do that stuff as youngsters, because it has a young appeal. So there's that. Likes keep fluctuating. Yeah, I don't know if that's a YouTube glitch or not. I think it is. It's not. I don't know. They work for me, but they don't work for some other people. I don't know what it is. To predict, rather to describe what he predicted from his studies. Yes, and that's the thing.
Maxwell used mathematics to predict the existence of radio waves. Albert Einstein, working with theoretical mathematics developed 50 years earlier, formulated his general theory of relativity, a pillar.
But let's be fair here. Did mathematics be used as a tool to help them. Like, the problem with this argument so far, okay, they're kind of laying the groundwork is, I'm sorry, from everything what you said, it sounds to me like they use mathematics as a tool to make their predictions, a tool to describe what they were trying to say. It doesn't mean mathematics causes all this stuff. Okay, thank you, Decibel. I'm actually curious, is this elitist mentality from preachers approved of in the Bible? I thought it wasn't. Preachers are supposed to be humble people. They are supposed to be the servants of all. But on the flip side, they are also they're the ones that proclaim the truth of God's word. So technically, the preacher's authority isn't his own, it's God. And so when you argue with a preacher, okay, you're arguing with God, because the preacher is God's representative on earth. Okay, I illustrate the absurdity of that using, like I am the high prophet of the Lord God, demigod, atheist God, Fangs. And so everything I say with the holy bunny hat on top of my head is holy written canon, but it's not my authority. It's the authority of Fangs. Okay. And the same is true for our lovely Earl, who is the Lord in which the lap in which our Lord naps, right? And everything she does in art and everything she writes on her blog is also that. Okay, but it's not her authority, it's Fangs' authority. Fangs is giving her that. So what happens is you have these two forces, and this is a psychological effect I go to therapy for. Because on the one hand, I'm supposed to be this humble person as a preacher. On the other, I'm supposed to be speaking the word of God. Can you see how that would cause a psychological problem in a person? And preachers go through this all the time. It's no wonder that a lot of preachers get batshit crazy, okay, because they end up, on the one hand, they're supposed to be this humble servant of God, and on the other hand, they're supposed to be this proclaimer of God's truth. And you have to have some sort of sense of ego that you're proclaiming God's truth, especially God's truth. And so as a former minister, I can tell you that, like William Lane Craig here, he believes very much like he's at a higher level of knowledge because he believes in God. And so when he looks at something like math, okay, he looks at it through the God lens of his understanding of who God is, and his understanding is more superior than everybody else's. You can't escape the elitism of belief at all. Every religion has this notion that they have the truth in some way, shape, or form, and that somehow makes them closer to living better than everybody else. I don't care what religion is. So religious trauma syndrome is one of the reasons I go to therapy. I also have some PTSD because I was threatened 3 times in various churches with physical harm by members. So in my last church, I had a guy, he was a former cop, and he always carried his gun to church, concealed it. He was concealed carry, but he, one time I was disagreeing with him on a decision. I said, no, I think we need to do it this way. He said, no, Pastor, you need to listen to me a little bit more. And he put his hand on his concealed weapon. So, yeah, I deal with a lot of shit. I've also had my livelihood taken away 3 times in the church because people would vote me out. And so I deal with a lot of trauma on that level, plus also a lot of religious trauma. Being a pastor, everybody bitches about them, but understand that sometimes pastors are the victims of their religion and their congregation just as much as anybody else. So there's that. But yes, I definitely have that. And that's why I go to therapy, and why I've been in therapy for going on 5 years, because it's not an easy thing to get over, Anne Marie. It really isn't. Especially now that I'm aware that I'm autistic and I didn't always understand socially what was going on. I now look back at it, and it's a very hostile environment. depending on the church, for pastors as well as congregants. So, yeah, humble brag is a term. Yes, it's the attitude that most preachers have to have, and you need to think about what that does to a person psychologically. Like I'm speaking for God, but I'm the most humble person, and like it's like that. So yeah, it's difficult to be humble when you're as good as me. Yes. And the praying by the prophet of fangs, go forth, multiply in the name of fangs, grow plenty of carrots and so basically the prophet Ed, yes. Yeah. Mm. What charges would I press? You got to understand the guy was a cop. He knew how far he could go. In that situation, well, I'm just resting my hand on my gun. It's a convenient place to rest my hand. I wasn't threatening any. I mean, he could deny it, but I knew what he meant. Okay, so it's like you need to understand, and a lot of these people in church that are antagonistic people are on church boards. Okay, they're not just in the pulpit; they're on church boards, they're on church councils, they're deacons, they're elders. It's not just the guy behind the pulpit every Sunday that can wear the moniker of an abuser. So and I'm trying to be a decent human being most of the time, but yes, I couldn't press charges because what charges would I press that he couldn't just deny and get out of? And because he was a former cop, a lot of the cops would have backed him and said, yeah, no, I don't really think that's a threat. And the prosecutor would have dropped the charges fairly quickly. So due to lack of evidence, there's a lot of things that people can do, Anne Marie, that they can get away with. So let's get back to old WLC and math, his mathematical. I want to get to the soliloquy at least. So
of modern physics. His calculations were later confirmed during a solar eclipse, when Arthur Eddington observed light from distant stars bending around the sun. Then,
okay, just because mathematics can predict the future doesn't mean it's divine. You can predict the future through a lot of different mathematical models. And so, yeah, that never bought me. So yeah, it's might makes right. I mean, which is the ethics of Christianity for the most part. So yeah.
Peter Higgs used mathematical equations to predict the existence of an elementary particle. It took 48 years, billions of dollars, and millions of man-hours for experimental scientists to finally detect the Higgs boson. How do we explain the astonishing applicability of math to the physical?
Maybe because we've designed it to give us predictive power. I mean, that's to me a lot of truth is adjudicated by its ability to predict things. If I through experimentation and observation, if I realize I drop apples, they fall to the ground. Me saying that if I drop this apple, it'll fall to the ground really isn't that great of a prediction, is it? And so when these guys, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing these physicists, but when you use a tool like math that we have designed to give us predictive power, we shouldn't be surprised that it works. Okay. Yeah. We shouldn't be surprised that it works. So he's basically they're using math to describe what we should see if the mathematical model holds. Yes, later on, experimentation and observation and all that other crap, we finally create an experiment that actually proves that true. Doesn't mean that math is somehow spiritual. It just means that we've created a tool that's effective at creating mathematical models in the creation of mathematical models that we can see the end results and we can kind of predict what things will happen. But, predictive power is kind of what makes science. It's like if you don't, the thing about like religion is like, I'll pray for you. Well, can you guarantee that if you pray for me, I'll get healed? Well, they don't say that. The smart preacher says, no, that's up to God. Because if they make that prediction, I can prove that they don't have predictive power at some point. I can get rid of that. Okay. So, but yes, just because a mathematical prediction comes true doesn't mean math is somehow spiritual. It's not prophecy. It's a tool that's very effective at predicting certain things within its ability to predict. Okay, so So, I mean, I don't understand William Lane Craig's reasoning here, but it's his video.
In 1960, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist and mathematician Eugene Wigner published an article that stunned the scientific community entitled...
Okay, I want to talk about Eugene, first of all. Does anybody know what theological persuasion Eugene Wagner is? I know, but anybody know? And why is this a big blunder for William Lane Craig for using this guy? I'll give you 5 seconds to predict I'll play the rest of it, and then you can tell me what kind of guy he was, because I don't think if William Lane Craig had known this, he wouldn't have said it.
The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural sciences. Wigner concluded that the effectiveness of mathematics is a miracle, which we neither understand nor deserve. Why is math?
Okay. Anybody know who Mr. Wagner was? He was an atheist. And when he uses the word miracle, he's not using it in the miraculous sense. I think the best advice I got from him, I thought that he was an atheist. Yeah, he was very much an atheist. Okay. He wrote his letter, he wrote that short article, and he was basically saying that it's an unreasonable gift that we've given ourselves, basically. But he wasn't saying that it was like a miracle or something from God or anything. Like when you read the whole article, and I think I read it like 4 or 5 years ago when I saw this video for the first time, I was very surprised at how very much Craig quote mines that guy. And he quote mines him hard, and he gets the parts out he wants because the other parts kind of contradict what he says. So yes. Case in point, going to heaven and not finding heaven or God. Yes, going into space. And math describes, yes. And that's, I think, where I get upset with Craig here, because he never deals with the fact that a lot of mathematicians would say it describes reality. It doesn't define it necessarily. Okay, we use mathematics to communicate what we're seeing and what trying to describe it. And then we can use those descriptions, because they're based in math, as a tool to make predictions. So, and a lot of times those predictions come to pass. So we've created an effective tool as human beings, and that's all we've really done.
Mathematics so effective? Philosophers who address this question fall into 2 camps. Naturalists, who believe that all...
Okay, does anybody believe a false dichotomy is coming the moment he says that philosophers fall into 2 camps? As soon as he opens, because William Lane Craig loves his dichotomies. All these apologists just love to put things into a dichotomy. And so he's going to say naturalists and those that believe in God. And so as soon as I heard him say that, I just wanted to make sure everybody's prepared that we're not going to get anything but 2 stories here, not the probably other 100 that exist.
that exists concretely is space-time and its physical contents. They exclude supernatural causes. And theists, who believe in a God who created the universe. Naturalists can...
Whoa, I want to stop. Okay. Let's see who we got here. Bertrand Russell, Tom Malden, Quine, and then we have Alvin Planiga, Mark Steiner, and Michael Dummett. Now, I know Alvin Planiga. I wasn't aware that he was, I know he's the father of presuppositional apologetics. So, yes, he's an analytic philosopher. Analytic obviously doesn't mean what most of us think it means. Thanks, Decibel. And you're being very generous to me tonight. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. But yes, it's... So basically, according to Craig at this point in his video, and it's his production, so it's not his voice, but it's definitely his produced thing, we fall into 2 camps. That all space-time exists when physical, and which the only thing we've actually ever proven, by the way. and no supernatural causes, because in order to prove, you have to prove that the cause is supernatural, okay, in order to justify that it's not part of natural order. So yes, in which God, they're right. They are sneaky, okay, and this one's pretty sneaky, but I saw it pretty. I guess you got to understand, my autistic brain rebels against dichotomies. I always think I'm way too analytical to just think there's two options. I guess that's just me. Let's see. I was autistic since third grade. I've always been keeping an eye out for my blind spots and my understanding bias, and sometimes I just can't relate. Yes, and this is my problem when I see something like this too. Because I'm like, there's got to be I'm automatically thinking, Decibel, there's another way to look at this. And I need to be more analytical than this bullshit right here. Okay. So, yes, there's no gods in our basket of real things to propose as an answer. Yes. So, but yes, none of those gods fit. So we have these two. So this is where the video is going. I just wanted everybody to be well aware that there's other shit involved here. There's other viewpoints.
Who created the universe? Naturalists cannot provide a reasonable explanation for why mathematics applies to the physical world.
Okay, that's straight up a lie and bullshit. Okay, and at this point in the video last time when I watched it 4 years ago, when I was dealing with a mathematical argument for the existence of God back then, I'm like, I have literally in my research read several naturalists who provided a reasonable explanation of how mathematics works and why it works so well without putting God in it. And so when he says that they cannot provide a reasonable explanation, that is straight up horseshit. I am sorry. That is just straight up garbage. Okay. He is openly ignoring a lot of people, okay, that are naturalists, that are mathematicians. Yeah, sorry. You are absolutely ignoring a whole bunch of, this is why William Lane Craig gets the accusation that he's a shill. He has to know that there are a ton of mathematicians and a ton of physicists and a whole bunch of other people who use math who would give him reasons why math is rational and why it works. He knows this, and yet this is what he says.
It's just a happy coincidence.
He doesn't quote any of these people to say it's a happy coincidence. I don't know where he's getting this idea of happy coincidence. He's making this shit up, I think. But I don't know of any of these people that I've listened to when I was listening to why mathematics works so well from a naturalist point of view that said it's a happy coincidence. Okay. Maybe they wrote some emotionally based article about it, but they weren't speaking technically. I can tell you that. Because when I did this 4 years ago and I worked on this argument and looked at it, that's not what they were saying. Okay. That's just not what they were saying. So I don't get this. Okay. Like this is straw manning big time what the naturalist says. And two, we're already in black and white false dichotomy fallacy. Okay. Like there's only two options here. So yeah, he's off his rocker. Yeah. He's either crazy or he's being deliberately deceptive because he has to have been informed that there are many naturalist people that would say, no, we do have an explanation of why that works. He has to know that. Okay. And he still keeps this video up to this day. So,
but this is no explanation at all.
No, it's not, which
At
is why
most,
that's not.
Naturalists can say that it's not surprising that math applies to the world because the world itself just happens to have a mathematical structure. So,
okay, Ray, is that something you would say? I'm serious. It just happens to have a mathematical structure. Is that how you would describe it as a mathematician? Because I am very, very curious as to whether an actual mathematician would make this claim about math. You wouldn't do it? Okay, I didn't think so. I thought it was a very simple 2-letter answer too. Thanks. This is not the way most mathematicians or most naturalists or most people who believe in a natural way that the world works, physics, all that stuff. This is not the way they would put this. This is total straw man. This is absolutely not what they would say. I would like to let everybody know that William Lane Craig still leaves this video up on his channel 5 years later, despite the fact that he has probably been informed that this is the case. And so this is what makes me think WLC is a con. So, you have to have been informed that this is not true, and yet there you keep it.
Of course, mathematics applies to it. But this explanation is unsatisfactory for two reasons. First, a great deal of mathematics in science cannot be physically realized. For example, imaginary numbers and infinite dimensional spaces.
And I would have to say, without any mathematical training, I would say, so what? There's a lot of theoretical models of the past that we can't realize either. It doesn't mean that the theoretical model is, yeah, is he crazy? Okay, there you go. You think he's gone off the deep end? There's a lot of people that have theorized that in the last 10 years he's gone more off the deep end. So I'll let you join them. But just because something can't be realized in reality doesn't, make it necessarily a bad thing in math. Like, math just theorizes these things to kind of, play out the game to its final conclusion in certain areas, but it doesn't mean that predictive elements are wrong. So yes, or both. Yes. Or both. Yes, the universe has no obligation to yeah, that's kind of what it's saying. Like, unsatisfactory is such a value judgment word. Okay, that's not, him saying that that's just unsatisfactory, and then he runs into the imaginary numbers, infinite dimensional space as part. Yes, and all these things are realized. Okay, see, that I was thought too. It's like, except they kind of are realized. So yeah, I don't know. This is where the argument really gets off the rail, because he's attacking the naturalist, and he does it in such a poor way.
Although these concepts are useful, physical reality cannot possibly have the structure they describe. And second, this answer still doesn't explain why the physical universe has such a stunningly elegant mathematical structure.
That's backwards. Like many commentators on this, is what came first. The universe is there, and then we as pattern-seeking mammals create a mathematical system to describe it. And so suddenly it has an elegant mathematical structure. I feel like I should be invoking Douglas Adams here and the puddle argument. Okay, like, we had this empty hole in the ground, and now we've used mathematics to kind of fill it and describe it. Like, the hole was first, and we came along, and we needed the ability as primates to describe this world, and we have given it elegant mathematical structure. Okay, it's not that elegant mathematical structure actually exists. Okay, we like to have patterns, we like to have that stuff, and that's what we're creating. Yeah, physical reality does include imaginary numbers. Okay, there. All right. See, this is why I do this channel, because I learn shit. I do learn stuff. Thanks, Ray. I appreciate you being here tonight, because the mathematical thing has drove me nuts for years. I find it, in my heart of hearts, I feel it's like the most awful argument for the existence of God there is, because I can see how math is a tool that human beings have created to describe the universe. And because it's a more universal language, you can pick up a mathematical equation and give it to, somebody in Europe or China or Africa, and it means the same thing, and it describes the same thing, and everybody gets it, right? And it's a useful tool that we have created, but without human minds to conceive it, it doesn't actually exist. Okay, it's our creation. And what apologists are trying to do with this argument is say, no, it really belongs. They're trying to hijack it, pull away from humanity, and make it gods, that they haven't proven that gods have existed. So it's like, I've always felt that math is a great tool that we have made. Okay, and it's a good one. Yeah, you don't despise those as elegant. Yeah, there's some things that are downright scary in our universe, like the power involved. I played a number of science fiction games, and I am fairly certain that things like black holes and quasars are dummied down in their actual force. Otherwise, you'd absolutely get destroyed by them in the game. But, it's like and we're all just code. Okay, there we go. How would we ever prove this? I don't know. But yes, I don't see the elegant mathematical structure. Once again, as somebody who studied economics, I would say that that's a value judgment. Like, is it an elegant mathematical structure, or are you imposing that on the universe? Because that's what you are. So there's not quite something not right here. Yeah, it's kind of like this argument so far.
By contrast, for theists, mathematics works so well in the physical world because God has chosen to create the world according to the plan he had in mind.
Okay, that is an unfounded assertion. Okay. There is so much goddamn wrong with this. If it was elegant, we wouldn't need advanced calculus. Fair. That's a fair point. Yes. I mean, this is the question of why. You want to talk about an unsatisfactory answer? A couple of things. Which God? Because last I looked, there are 100 creator deities. Why is it yours that's the one that's the actual creator? 2, why would a perfect being need to create in the first place? Like, there's so many things. I mean, this is an argument from design, basically, at this point. Yeah, quantum mechanics predicts all of that. Okay, I kind of figured. See, I think we're learning in science that it can't be God. And that's the most scary thing to theists right now. So they run to math because math is confusing to a lot of people. But it's like, this is a non-answer. This is God of the gaps. This is design argument all wrapped up into one. It's all the assumption of the God that you haven't even proven exists. Okay, it's not an argument for the existence of God. It's a post hoc rationalization. If you accept God as an answer, okay, like you are the puddle trying to describe your environment at this point and thinking that the environment was created for you. Okay, it's like I remember see, that's why, like, recently the argument for math has been real popular on apologist channels, but it's like, I remember 4 years ago how stupid this sounded, and they've made it sound stupider recently. So I don't know. Or is it based on some maths in the same, like, argument for morality? Yes, this is my thing. Like, we can't have a moral system based on humans coming up with moral systems, so therefore God. Math works so well because God used math and created it to create the universe, but it's an abstract idea that doesn't have any creative force. You figure that one out, Michael. So yes, Douglas Adams would apply here. Like, you are rationalizing that somehow something you created works so well because God. Okay. Yeah, it's like, no, maybe it works so well because it fits reality and it's a good tool to predict. It's a tool that we have made. And there's an argument among mathematicians, like, the minority position is that it's divine. Like, that is the minority position about math. The rest of mathematicians, they don't see it this way, just so everybody knows. Prove and use philosophy. Can you prove China exists using philosophy? No, I can prove it exists with a lot of empirical data. Yeah, the puddle is a good argument. I think it's like they see math works, so therefore we're going to throw the puddle in, and the puddle is God. Like, it's bad. I mean, it's just really, really bad. Yeah, it's math of the gaps. I think that's probably a very accurate description. So there you go.
The first-century Jewish philosopher Philo of Alexandria offered this analogy. When a king wants to build a city, a trained architect first designs in his mind a plan of all the parts of the city that are to be completed. Then he begins to construct the city out of stones and timber, looking at the model and ensuring that the material objects are built according to the plan. Mathematics and physics work so well together because the same mind that designed the universe on a mathematical model also built the universe on the same mathematical model.
Okay, so that's the argument. All right. That's part of the argument, that the reason why these two things work so well together is they were built by the same mind. That I'm not so sure. I think the universe has always existed and we came up with math to describe it. I don't know. It's like, isn't it a sin to massage the text and conflate passive? There's so a whole lot of, I wish it was. Yeah, it's silly rubbish. I love the word rubbish. I'm so glad that English speaking people came up with the word rubbish, and keep it alive. Thanks. And did anybody else have Sim City vibes back here? Like, am I the only one that had Sim City vibes? Okay. So now we're going to get to the actual argument that William Lane Craig proposes. So QM defies this. Okay, there we go. Quantum mechanics is kicking this whole argument's ass, Ray. So here we go.
Built the universe on the same mathematical model. All of this adds up to an argument for the existence of God that goes like this. If God does not exist, the applicability of mathematics is just a happy coincidence.
All right, I'm going to stop there with just my knowledge, my one semester in logic, and my many classes over the years in philosophy in different fields. That is a false statement. Okay. There are many mathematicians who would not say this. This is completely a straw man position based thing. Okay. Like, that first premise is not what mathematicians say. It's not what physicists say. It's what William Lane Craig says, and the people that use this argument says. If God is not the applicability of mathematics, it's just a happy coincidence. Well, happy coincidence is a value judgment. What a happy coincidence is, like, anybody who's like watched any kind of, done any kind of, look at how an action affects a multiple group of people, you know that sometimes it's a happy coincidence for a group of people over here, but it's an unhappy coincidence over here. So what you mean by happy coincidence is very relative to whoever experiences it. Okay. Yeah. So this is not a word. This idea of happy coincidence shouldn't even been used as a premise in the soliloquy, because that's a value judgment and it doesn't make any sense to me, even on the basic training I have in logic and philosophy. Okay. Like, this is a horrible premise. Like, you haven't proven it true. I can easily probably prove it false or unable to be proven. Okay, I could say, sorry, you can't prove that premise false or true, so the argument doesn't follow, because now the conclusion can be false or true. So it's like, this is not something that you can do. Okay, like, this is not something that fits an argument. But let's see the rest of it. So already this first premise, I'm going to put an F by it as false, because I just don't see it. I just don't. Okay. It's like, I don't think that that's a true statement. Okay. And so you got to prove that that's a true statement, and they haven't bothered to do that.
But the applicability of mathematics is not just a happy coincidence.
Okay. Once again, a value judgment. This is not a statement that can be proven true or false with data, information. This is an opinion-based statement. Okay. Both of these premises are completely human opinion. Okay. They're the opinion of the theist. Okay. Which I do not share. I don't think the applicability is just happy coincidence. I think we've developed a tool as human beings that works really damn well. Okay. Like, it works really well. It's our creation. It is absolute opinion. The second one, once again, it's not a happy coincidence, the applicability. That is an opinion-based statement. And once again, I'd have to say, no, it's not a happy coincidence. It's a deliberate design that we have put into it that makes it work. Human beings can actually design tools that work. Okay, and math works. Okay, so I just get really tired of this. This is one of the worst arguments for the existence of God when it comes to the amount of opinion that's in the premises. Like, it is absolutely built on this idea of happy coincidence. And a happy coincidence is such a relative opinion-based idea. I don't even know how it got past the muster at William Lane Craig Ministries. I really don't. So, I'm sorry about your activist meeting. There you go. The meetings talk a lot. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, oh, that's something I didn't notice, Rusty. Yeah, he just literally reversed himself. But then just took out the part, if God does not exist. Okay, so basically, let's go to the conclusion, and you can look at the whole thing.
Therefore, God exists.
Okay, so what you're saying, Rusty, and I agree with you, is that the first statement stands on its own, but premise 2 and the conclusion are basically the first premise reversed. That's all it is. And Rusty, you win the prize, because that is absolutely true. Because that's all the mathematical argument for the existence of God is. Look at it. The applicability of mathematics is not a happy coincidence. And the first one, it says the applicability is just a happy coincidence. That's just a reverse. Two statements are reversed. And then the God exists is in the conclusion, but up in premise 1, and God does not exist in the other one. They just have moved the word not. Okay. So yeah, that's all it is. So, are you sleepy, Earl? So, but yes, you nailed it. That's all this argument for mathematical argument is. It's just an inverse statement where the not is moved. So, well done. It would look the same. It would look the same as it is now. And we would count mathematics as a tool that's not applicable. Like, we need to come up with a better tool that actually gives us better applications. It's like, to me, asking why math works is kind of acting, why does a car drive down the road? Why does a computer compute? Why does a pencil write? Why does paper receive the writing? It's almost like we designed those things to do those things. So, so there's that. But yeah, but that's it.
Eugene Wigner was right. The effectiveness of mathematics in the physical world is quite literally a miracle.
And I have to reiterate that he was an atheist, and he's using the word miracle not in the way that William Lane Craig does. Doesn't ever spoil that. Yeah, I don't know. And at this point, we're going to have William Lane Craig shilling for his channel, so I'm going to take that out of there. Yeah, you're with me. Yeah, it's like and now let's go back to the original video we looked at, the first one that was 1:20, where he says he wishes he had used this argument more often because he feels he would have been more effective at reaching intelligent people with the idea that there's a God. Yeah, he didn't really say that. He has quote mined him and basically changed his words. He's twisted his words. So that's actually, Fred makes a good point. That last scene, he didn't say that. So what do we have here? We have William Lane Craig 8 days ago wishing that he used the math argument more. But when you look at the math argument, is probably the largest bullshit argument I've ever heard, if it's the way he's presented it, for the existence of God, bar none. It's like the lowest one on my list. Okay, because it is so based on opinion about what math is. So you're not converted, right? It didn't win you over. Okay, there we go. Mathematician, not infest. Okay. How's it a math a coincidence without Mr. Magic? I don't know. Yeah, he didn't. You're right, Fred. He did not say that. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me either, because basically premise 1 is the full stated thing. And then he just, in premise 2, he takes part of that premise 1 and reverses it, and then reverses the conclusion that God exists. He just moves the not. Okay. It's literally the same words. And I don't know how I'm sorry, anybody with a basic logic class would look at that soliloquy and go, this is bullshit. Okay. because you can't prove if the premise is true or false. There's just so much stuff. So at this point, he's become a shill to me. I agree with it that he's a shill, and I think he's been a shill for a while. But then again, he might be a true believer that just puts up this crap thinking it's good arguments, because we got to remember that Low Bar Bill, which I love the fact that he gets called that all the time. It still never gets old. It's just, his basic argument boils down to experience, that I experienced the Holy Spirit ministering to my heart, so therefore God is true. So, and that's what he feels is the biggest proof of God is the witness of the Holy Spirit, which is like, so basically your fifis. And if I put it that way to him, he'd get pissed off. But yeah, math is inevitable. He substitutes toast for God to see if the logic is equivalent and exposes the flaw. Yes, and all of us love toast if we go over to Dave's. So, but yes, I mean, and I've said that before too, Rusty. If you replace God with another deity, like, let's see if I could do it off the cuff here with Fangs. If Fangs does not exist, then mathematics is just a happy coincidence. But mathematics is not a happy coincidence, so therefore Fangs exists. I can do it with anything and put it in that soliloquy, and it works. Okay, so if it works for them, so there's that. You love toast. Yeah, I don't have a toast emoji over here. You have to go over to Dave's for that. I have other emojis like grumpy and nope and yes. Oh, you saw Jeebus on toast? Yes. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. Today it was just like, this is for Fang's sake, like all through this whole thing. But I was just, this week I was just, okay, I wonder what Low Bar Bill's been up to lately. And I saw this little video. It was produced about 8 days ago. I'm like, if he had done the mathematical argument more, this is my for old Fang's sake, he would have lost more intellectuals, is my thing. I think he would have, mathematicians and people studying physics would have come forward and said, what kind of idiocy is this? Okay, I think he's been called on that before in some of his debates. Like I think he debated a physicist once who absolutely crucified him. So it's like, yeah, there is a happy Fangs. It's rare. You got to understand Fangs' dilemma. He is constantly dealing with Yahweh. So yes, there is a happy Fangs, but he is constantly having to deal with Yahweh. And so he's more grumpy because he has to deal with Yahweh and his servants all the time. So this is kind of the look he gets on. So yes, there is a toast to Fangs. Oh, we're going to have Fangs and toast together, I guess. I love Dave's channel. I love going there at Saturday night because they have a good time over there. They're funny. I mostly go there for the laughs. So yeah, Anne Marie knows what we're talking about here. So, but yeah, so I'm going to say it. If I was still a Christian, I would encourage Bill not to do that, because what you're going to do is you're going to arm the mathematicians and the physicists who normally wouldn't get involved in this apologetic bullshit. And they're going to come out and say, wait a minute. First of all, there's a big debate on the relationship between math and the universe. And most of you theists are in a minority position. Like most of it, if they're cornered, they'll admit that it's a minority position, because most mathematicians, like, it's a tool we have created to describe the universe. You could do math a different way and still get the same results. You could create a different tool and it would work. Okay, if let's say human beings have been born with 12 digits instead of 10, and we did a base 12 mathematical system, it would still work. Okay, but it would be different. It would be absolutely different. Okay, so that's the point. So it's a created tool. Thank you. She didn't hurt Earth, but help Mars. Would math still prove God? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. See, this is the scary part of it, Decibel, is a lot of these religions have an apocalyptic view of the universe. And so another thing that would make Fangs grumpy here is the fact that no matter what happens in the universe, they're still going to say God did it. And they're going to still say that this is proof of God. I mean, I would argue then that the better explanation is that that Mars, Ares, has decided to get pissed off at Earth. You prefer Digimon and not digits? Okay, there you go. But yes, I would say that proves like something else entirely. If I was going to get deity oriented, I would start going a different direction than that. Let's see if I can maybe. Yeah, here we go. Let's substitute this one. I can see like Fangs in his trickster god status doing that shit. He's going to put it back. Don't worry. Just borrowing it. Going to put it back. So, but yes, I think theists, the problem with being a theist is you're trained not to ask the hard questions. I know I used to do the indoctrination. I was a Christian education pastor long before I became a senior. And so one of the things I did was taught people, oh, you need to stay away from that. Don't watch the news so much. Don't watch, please don't watch scientific channels. They're just lying to you. I remember saying that once when I was a very, very younger man. Now I would say, yeah, you probably need to watch them more often because your information is based in the Bible, and that's bullshit. So, but yeah, I mean, I would explain that gravitational force shift as, like Fangs is borrowing some of the gravity from Earth and giving it to Mars because he thinks it's an equitable distribution. And then after a while, he would realize what a mistake that was and bring it back. Fangs makes a lot of mistakes. He's not a perfect deity. Okay. He's the deity for the rest of us. So, it could be it's Satan's. He's Satan's apologist. It's quite possible. It is one of the great, like Fred points it out just now, don't ask, just believe. It's one of the great damages that religion does, because look at how many scientists that were Christians and great in their own right, brilliant minds, who stopped at a certain point because, well, the rest of it's a mystery of God. Isaac Newton is probably the most famous example. Like, he got to a certain point in his stuff and stopped because, well, I can't figure it out, so it must be God's mystery. And imagine if he had not been religious and said, no, there's got to be an answer. I'm going to keep looking. Okay. Yeah. Fangs is perfect. He's perfect in his imperfections. There we go. I love him. This little bunny has given more joy to my life than all my days as a Christian. So, and I will speak that that's the truth. That is an absolute truth. But yeah, there's a ton of ways to describe things. And when you invoke religion or faith, you can make up anything you want. And that's the whole point of Fangs. I mean, if the Christians can do what they do, I can make up a deity too. And Fangs, he's the rabbit atheist. I'm the rabbit atheist. And we work really well together. And Earl is our prophetess, visual prophetess. And she writes on her blog stuff and, all the other stuff. And I can use God of the Gap arguments with Fangs just as much as I can with Yahweh. So I can use pre-supper, prove Fangs doesn't exist. I can substitute Fangs in every argument for the existence of God. A divine creation requires a divine Fangs to create it. I mean, what else can't I do with this deity that Christians and believers already do? And so that's kind of why I love him. He's a lovable black fuzzball that nibbles on vegetables. So, Yeah, he doesn't believe in himself any more than other gods he messes up. Yes. About a divine creation. I don't know. Dave was drinking wine over in Captain Death today because of somebody's birthday, and I had to write in chat, dude, you're already messing up words because Dave is such a lightweight when it comes to alcohol. So, but yeah, it was just, but this is, when I look at math, okay, and what really bothers me about the math argument is we've had all these brilliant human beings that have created ways for us to describe the universe that give us practical application in real life. And we're going to strip all that away from them and give it to God. Okay, a God that they haven't even proven exists. And so it's like when doctors and nurses work hard to save a patient's life and the person praises God and doesn't give them a single word of thanks. The same is true with like math and physics and biology. Like these brilliant people working together, trying to come up with better ways of understanding the universe. And what do theists come and do? They come along and they steal it. Like Fang steals the gravitational force from Earth to give it to Mars. And I'm going to have to write that in as one of the stories now. and then realizes, oh, I need to give that back because it kind of upsets everything. It's like it's I don't know. It bothers me in that respect because there's all these wonderful human beings that are giving us information, giving us stuff that absolutely helps us. And what's happening? The theist, the apologist grabs that from people and gives it to their God and diminishes what people are doing. It's like, it sucks. It's one of the most sucky things about religion. When people say, oh, religion does so better. Yeah, but the one real sucky thing it does is make human beings look like shit. And we're not. Like I know, if you look at politics, that's where all the crappy humans seem to reside. But if you look at other areas of life, a lot of good human beings are there, and they're not doing there with God. They're just doing their thing, and somebody else gets the credit besides them. So I don't know. Pre-breakfast on a good day. Some even argue pre-order is possible. Okay. It was pretty much an misunderstanding what math is. Oh, I have to reveal another piece of art that Earl's been working on before I leave here. All of you are familiar with the unholy trinity. This is the latest form of the unholy trinity, which originally started as an AI image, but Earl has been tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it to get the unholy trinity. And let me see. I got to get the right look for this. Get a bonus hat today. So there you go. I need to put my red feather on this one. I do have a red feather. This one, it's lost its red. There we go. So there we go. There. Now I fit the part. But I wanted to show this to you. I've always loved this image when Earl first showed it to me, and she's made it better and better. And as always, she says it's the final form for now. If she gets more tattoos, she'll have to put them in. Yeah. I find it theists are anti-science, but they can't put their smartphone down. Yes. This is the unholy trinity. We have me, the high prophet of Fangs, the rabid atheist, the hearer of the voice of the true God Fangs, the atheist deity that doesn't believe in himself. We have the lap in which our Lord naps, the prophetic artist, the wonderful, lovely I Killed Earl, and we have our Lord there who nibbles on our vegetables and cleanses them for us to keep us from religious corruption, the Honorable Fangs. So himself, or herself, or whatever you want Fangs to be. So I don't know. Yes, I love this picture. I have it on my phone as my background. So One of the most, it makes me smile every time, and that's why I keep it there. So the fact that I created a cult is just, I've done something of value to the universe. Bruce Nolan from Bruce, Almighty Beautiful. There we go. There we go. So this is the Unholy Trinity, this latest. Yeah, well, he's dishonorable. Okay. We'll have to come up with a good word to describe Fangs. I've openly said that he is the living definition of the F word. So you can literally use Fangs in place of the F word. And you'll probably get in less in trouble for doing that, but people might look at you weird. So but yeah, this is still, it's now one of my favorite pieces of art. It really is. But yeah, and kind of represents what we've been doing on this channel. So it's been great. What worries me more is that the existence of WLC is proof for, besides his parents having endorsed at least once. I don't know. I look at WLC and he is either the world's most gullible person that's very selectively keeping information out of his brain, or he's a shill. Because this is one of those, like, this math argument he's had has been out for 5 years. It's been debunked thoroughly by many, many atheists who have taken that argument and shredded it and pointed out to him that he's living in a false dichotomy for the whole thing, and that there are other explanations that definitely, it's not a happy coincidence. The happy coincidence thing has been definitely debunked. And yet he keeps it up, and he keeps making money off views on it. And he keeps, it's still there in his arguments for the existence of God. So he is cute, though. Yes, Fangs is cute. Just don't get close to the teeth. Just be warned. There's a danger. For those of you that have listened in on what my book is going to be about with Fangs, it's the misadventures of Fangs, and it's book 1, dealing with Yahweh. So, and that's what Fangs is going to be doing through the entire book, is dealing with Yahweh. And I've debated with myself. I'm still wondering if I should take the Jesus Christ stuff off, the New Testament stuff off, and save that for book 2. So, oh, see, this is an Adobe work right there. Okay, that she's altered this to make it more look, those are like her actual tattoos. And so, but yes. And according to her, it took forever to get the red feather. I got to find a red feather like that, though, Earl. I really do, because it definitely makes it snappy. So I really like it. Some people have humanity could do without, but then what would we have to complain about? He needs a low bar to reach the whiskey. I think people like him are inevitable as long as religion exists, because there's always going to be somebody that wants to defend the religion. But at the same time, I wonder about low bar, because he's been in it so long. What does he do without it? Like, he's been an apologist for a long time. And I have to wonder, because there's a lot of preachers, because I hold out hope for low bar, because there's a lot of preachers. There's an old cartoon that used to appear every once in a while, and it's usually like a preacher getting ready to do the service, and the caption is, "I stopped believing in this stuff a long time ago, but I'm in too deep to quit." It's like, that was my feeling for like 3 or 4 years. Like, I don't believe in this shit, but it's like, here I am. And I'm wondering how many apologists are there. Like, they don't believe, but they're still trying to refire up their belief by continuing to be apologists. And so it's kind of why I'm a little bit more lenient sometimes with theists. But low bar has to have been told that the mathematical argument was junk, and given good reasons for it. And he has to have been told that one guy was an atheist who said the word miracle, so he couldn't have meant what he means by miracle. And yet he does He leaves the video up. He hasn't changed it. He hasn't changed his argument for math. And then he comes out 8 days ago with a video saying he wishes he would have done that argument more because he would have reached intellectual people better. I don't get that. I don't get that. Yeah, he's a bad apologist. So Fang's the great anti-theist. Yeah, that might work. Like we've created, there's some obvious powers for rabbits, like procreation. So he's a fertility god. There's also the obvious multiplication. So that's a multiplication ability, high senses, smell, eyesight, especially ears. Doesn't like his ears touched because he can't hear through all the rest of the rabbits in the universe. So, but yeah, Fang's his chief problem is he's a deity that isn't a creator deity because he doesn't believe in creator deities, and yet he has to deal with those that think they are. And Yahweh's the first one he's going to deal with. And Yahweh is such an insufferable asshole that Fangs just finds himself at his wit's end a couple of times trying to stop Yahweh's bullshit. So he still hasn't figured out thumbs yet, even though he has one. Oh, does he have one in this one? Nope. So that's the only. Oh, wait, there's a thumb. Yeah, he might have hums, but I think he has trouble using them. They're not really a thing. That's just practice. Okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This one turned out pretty well, Earl. Yeah. I mean, when Fangs is in his cartoon form, he obviously has thumbs, but this one, I don't see any thumbs in this one. Yeah, he's not a creator. That's kind of the whole point. Like Yahweh basically creates the Garden of Eden in my story, but then extrapolates it to the rest of the universe, even though the universe already existed before he sat down to create the Garden of Eden, kind of thing. He's just an arrogant, presumptuous prick. And I said it before, Yahweh and his wife Asherah become estranged and separated and divorced. So he creates the Garden of Eden because he needs porn. That's why he creates Adam and Eve and Lilith naked. So yeah, it's it's kind of what it is. And I think some of the rest of the story here on A Mission from God is from Earl too. So yeah. So there we go. But yes. So we have many variants of Fangs. But this one I like the best. I don't know, maybe someday if I ever get a lot of money, I'm going to create a very large picture of this and put it on the wall. Can't wait to make that art. Yes, it's for porn. Yahweh doesn't have the use of his wife anymore, so he's trying to find other ways to stimulate himself. So the untold story of why Yahweh actually created Adam and Eve and Lilith naked. So, and Lilith came up without the knowledge of good and evil. She came up with the idea that the whole thing was bullshit. That's why she got kicked out. So, because even Yahweh likes lesbian porn. So, yes. Well, boldly opened his eyes for the first time and saw the universe, thought he created it. We know because Fangs was there to witness it. Yes. So, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's still funny, Earl. I've said it 16 times, and it's always still funny because even Yahweh likes lesbian porn. That's why he created Lilith and Eve. So, yeah, they all have belly buttons. Imagine that. But yes, it's a work in progress, and I'm having a great time with it right now. But yeah, I've also started I have to have multiple writing projects or I get bored. And it's also good to take a break from stuff and then come back to it with a fresh set of eyes sometimes. And so I do that. So I got a couple other projects in the works, but the Fangs thing has just been hilarious to me. I've got a basic plot and outline in my head and written down, and And now it's just a matter of filling out the stories. So Eevee was his favorite Pokemon. Yeah, it's possible too. See, Yahweh is just, my whole description of Yahweh is just being a pretentious prick that takes credit for everybody else's work. And so, and Fangs is around there to stop some of the stupid shit he does. And sometimes he's successful and sometimes he's not, because Yahweh has an anger problem and he tends to kill things when he gets mad. So, and Fangs tries to stop this and it just doesn't work. So he's not as powerful as Yahweh in certain ways. So yeah, your blog post is approved canon. I haven't even read it yet. That's how it works. It works that way in real life. Like there were some people, if you look at canon lists, early proposed canon lists, there's actually some biblical books not on it because they were written by somebody else or compiled by somebody else, and then they came together, and some people had never even read those other books. So that works. I'm going to read that as soon as I'm done streaming, which will be in probably another 5 minutes or so, because we've kind of come into an end of things. But yeah, I wanted to let you guys know what's going on there, and show some of this brilliant artwork, like this one today and this one, kind of the finalized one. And some of you are in here. So some atheists are in here, including Whale Rights, and haven't seen Cranky Elder God in a while. Hey, breakfast. A little late. I'm about to wrap up, but I know. Yeah, I grabbed it. I said, yeah, I gotta grab that because this is just great stuff. There's turtles in here. There's lightning. There's flashy waves. There's the anglerfish, and Dade is in here, and Fangs is just there in his snorkel and being grumpy because he doesn't like getting wet. You'd like to see Mr. Deity include Fangs? That would be hilarious. That would be funny. Darth Fangs goes. Yes, Cranky gets in there quite a bit because I have to have the elder gods in the story, Earl, because Yahweh wakes up being this pretentious prick, and the elder gods kind of look at him and go, "You pretentious little prick." And they kind of enlist Fangs to try to humble Yahweh. And yeah, it doesn't work. But they're amused because they're watching the younger deities duke it out, and that's what gives them entertainment. So yes, Earl is a fabulous artist, and she deserves many, many head pats. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's one of the best decisions I ever made was to have Earl come on board as my artist, and so that's that. Oh, I'm gonna love it. Probably, I'm gonna love it because you make up stuff in a similar way that I do. And I can always see the beauty of being me and being a former theologian is I can make up shit on the fly that makes everything fit together using my massive imagination, and it works. You can draw anything and I will find a way to fit it into mythology because that's the way mythology works. Yes, but many head pats for Earl. But I'm going to call it a night. One, this hat is making me incredibly hot. Weather hasn't changed an awful lot. It's got a little kind of so. Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. But yes, the cranky elder gods and the rest of the elder gods they love causing shit among the younger gods. So because then they get to watch and giggle to themselves. So, but thanks everybody for stopping by tonight. I'm going to call it a night. I'm getting very, very warm. And that's usually a sign where I'm going to start to feel like my world is crushing in on me. My hypersensitivity kicks in, and I've got to go find a way to cool down here for a little bit. So, but thanks everybody for stopping by. Appreciate all the comments. I don't think William Lane Craig should have used the God argument from math more because I think it would have been a worse outcome for him. But make sure you guys hit the like button on the way you're out. Appreciate all the people that donated. There's quite a few. There's actually 10 donations tonight. So thank you very much to Decibel and to Martin and to Fred and to Kevin. Thank you all. Thank you guys. Appreciate all of you. Just supporting the channel the way you do. I'm going to continue to work on. I've got some plans to do some other things, but I'm taking it slow because I want to make sure when I do them, they will last. So thanks everybody for the support of the channel. Appreciate you. And, as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. And, Fangs doesn't promise an afterlife. So he just promises that if you put off the religious shackles, you might have a better time in this life and enjoy your life a little bit more and be happier if you do. And, don't waste your time on that religion faith. Get Fangs to purify it with his lovely fangs, and may he nibble on your hearts and vegetables as well. Thank you for all of you, for all that you do. You guys understand that religion is a waste of time, so thanks for that. And Fangs will guide you in that, and he will definitely lead you down that path. And thanks, everybody, for stopping by. And I will catch you all next time, which will be on Tuesday.